Welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast with big new ideas about credit unions and conversations about innovative technology with credit union and fintech leaders. This podcast is brought to you by Quillo, the real-time loan syndication network for credit unions, and by your host, longtime credit union and financial technology journalist Robert McGarvey. And now, the CU 2.0 podcast with Robert McGarvey.
Hopeful, determined. In a conversation with Renee Sattirewhite, the CEO of the African American Credit Union Coalition, she came across as both hopeful and determined. And she believes there still is work to be done, and she definitely is not giving up. Definitely, too, she knows the landscape in Washington, D.C. today is dramatically different. But she does not see that as a call for waving the white flag of surrender. Along the way in this show, you'll hear mentions of some of the great heroes of AACUC, such as Bill Porter and Bert Jr. and Bill Bynum. But you'll also hear the names of many very successful women. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus said you can't step into the same river twice. Changes are constant. So it definitely is today. And Renee Sattirewhite is determined to contribute her views on the kinds of changes we need to be making now. Listen up. It was a century ago when we last talked.
I know, and so much has changed, and still so much has stayed the same.
Well, let's start there. What's changed and what's stayed the same?
We have a new president and with a new agenda, so that's changed. What stays the same is AACUC is still committed to making sure that all people have access to financial services and products that help to brighten their lives.
Isn't it the new presidential agenda making your life more complicated in pursuing your agenda?
Right now, it hasn't. I think AACUC lives in a bubble. We don't have any government funds that we've received. So that's helpful. DEI is unfortunately under attack in such a way that is so misunderstood. I think that some of our credit unions and our credit union communities that are being serviced might incur some troublesome times.
Well, if the CDFI thing goes away, that will certainly impact a lot of your members, a lot of the inclusive members, a lot of some credit unions that are quite big, some that are quite small, but they're all trying to do good works with people in their communities.
But we've written a letter in support of CDFIs, and of course we stand hip to hip with inclusive with Kathy Mann and her team. The CDFI, we cannot stand for have that to go away. It cannot. It really helps too many people. And I think once people figure out that the DEI initiatives, they don't help brown and Black people as much as they help other people. So like veterans and white women. White women are the biggest recipients of DEI initiatives. And so I just don't think that people are aware of that.
Yeah, that when you say that, I'm an old guy, but when you say that, I remember when I entered the workforce of the Big Trade Association in Washington, D.C., there were young women who were college graduates. They were all secretaries, every single one of them. Didn't matter what color they were. They were all secretaries. And I was a college graduate and I was a professional.
Right.
But
exactly.
I happened to be male. and now those women would also be professionals. Many of them would be.
Exactly. And that's because of some of the legislation that has been put together. It's, according to a McKinsey Women in the Workplace report, the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action, diversity hiring, and corporate DEI initiatives have been white women. And so I think the current backlash and the swift change makes it challenging, if you will, if nothing else, makes it challenging to know where we're headed Like it feels like Reconstruction all over again. Yeah, so I'm really glad that we're talking.
Now, the federal government, as I understand it, is running away from DEI, but that doesn't mean that individual credit unions or credit union associations have to run away from DEI, does it?
No, it doesn't, and I don't think they think they are. I think I was very proud of America's credit unions for not taking down anything about DEI at their largest conference, Governmental Affairs Conference. AACUC started the DEI Tuesday several years ago in conjunction with NALCUP and Inclusive. And then we've added the DEI Collective, the CU Pride, Happy Cup, all those different organizations. And it was so popular, and I won't, popular is not the right word, but so intense and intentional that Chairman Harper and Rodney Hood were very supportive of the DEI Summit for NCUA. That's probably not going to happen in this climate. To that end, people were really participating in the DEI Tuesday, understanding that a celebration of diversity, equity, and inclusion is not a bad thing, but a good thing, especially for the credit unions and people who are serving the underserved. What we did this year at our event, we did not celebrate DEI Tuesday because we were in a government-funded, a U.S. Highly government-funded facility, the OAS building, and we didn't want to get our friends in any trouble. And so it was a great event. We were able to celebrate the Hall of Fame honorees that were inducted. It was a great ceremony, a beautiful facility. But again, we didn't engage in DEI Tuesday because we didn't want our friends to be in any sort of trouble being a United States government funded building.
What's the mood of the people, of your members that you deal with? Many of the people I know, it's like they were hit on the head this morning with a baseball bat, and you say, "Hey, wake up, man! Wake up!
Pretty much the same.
You're still alive. You can fight, man."
Yeah, pretty much the same. But Ray, where I stand with this, I'm a Black woman, and my ancestors came over here under horrible conditions. And so the plight of African Americans, I don't speak for every African American, surely I do not. However, people of color have endured so many horrendous things throughout our history here in the United States. This is just another thing happening. But we have to be mindful that this is the government that we've elected. These are our elected officials. And so whatever this length of time is that we're going to endure, what we're going to endure, we don't have to be hopeless about it. We can still, I don't want to say fight the good fight, because that's not how I want to portray this. I think that's very important for us to look at what we can do. What are the spaces that we can find hope? What are the spaces that we can be real about what's happening, and if necessary, have the conversations and or talk with our legislator, our people who are governing our governing bodies, to give us more opportunity. What can this look like for everybody? How can this be equal for all? And it's unfortunate that the federal government is tasked with eliminating these programs that have been so critical in providing some semblance of equity.
Well, there has been economic growth in the Black community from when I was young, deservedly so. I'm not saying in any manner, shape, or form that it wasn't deserved. Is there still progress that needs to be made?
Oh, absolutely. The unfortunate statistics about people of color and their salaries versus white people, there's still dramatic percentages of disparity. I think that all the challenges that people of color have who are not on the earning scale, of a middle class person, it's sometimes it's just heartbreaking. And so the government sanctions, or the government related projects and legislation to help bring people prosperity, they're going away. And it's just sad. It's just sad. I do think that there's still lots of opportunity for growth. AACUC is partnering with some great partners, True Stage, Navy Federal, Visa, all looking at how we can do things for the small credit unions that are typically run by people of color and with less assets. And so, where can we help dig into that? Where can we help people learn how to do their retirement better? AACC is going to roll out a wealth building initiative that directly is related from the Future Fund, which was created to help sustain AACUC, but also to scale our programs and services so that we can reach more people. We can help our member credit unions reach more people and be trained on and educated on how to create and maintain their wealth. And I'm real excited about that, along with, internships programs and professional development programs that are going to help you get better jobs, have better resources. And no, I still think that there's a long way to go for people of color to, or Black people specifically, to be part of an equitable society financially.
Yeah, do you offhand have a statistic for the number of CEOs of credit unions of 1 billion or more in assets?
Ooh, I love that question. I just asked my staff to look at our credit unions that were 800 million and above 2 years ago, because many of them have become billion-dollar credit unions that I wasn't aware of. For instance, Peach State Federal Credit Union, led by Marshall Boutwell, he let me know that they just recently crossed over the billion-dollar threshold, which is really great. They're a great partner with the ACC. So what I know right now, Robert, is that there are 11 Black CEOs over billion-dollar credit unions. And if you told me to give you who they are, I might miss somebody, but I'm gonna look in my information because I do have it. But one that's just happened is Liz Ponder is the interim president and CEO at SRP Federal Credit Union. Eric Jenkins left to take a different position at a credit union in Florida, and we wish him well. But the board of directors have put Liz Ponder in place as the interim president and CEO. So that's really terrific. And they're over $1 billion in assets. Tiffany Ford serves as a $1 billion credit union CEO at its Michigan credit union. And Marcia Majors, U.S. Eagle Federal Credit Union in New Mexico. BECU, Bev Anderson out in Seattle, Washington. And Visions, Ty Muse in New York. Jonathan Roberts, Hudson Valley Credit Union, and Isaac Johnson in Texas, a credit union there. We've got about 11 that are doing some really great things in the $1 billion category. Ricky Oti from Partners Credit Union, the Disneyland Credit Union. So yeah, many people, 11, and I'm glad we have 11. Tim Anderson at United States Senate Federal Credit Union, John Hamilton in the Maryland area, MECU Credit Union, and Gerardo Smith at Educational Systems Credit Union. So I think that's all of them that I've listed. I hope I didn't miss any.
There's some great names on that.
Yeah,
like that the Muse guy in New York State is a credit union visionary.
Yeah, Ty Muse is one of my favorite people. He is the recipient of the Pete Kerr Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh,
he received it in 2022.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's my hero. He's my hero. And
he's quite a visionary, and BECU is certainly one of the big dogs. But
yeah,
I just looked it up to make sure I'm right. And
yeah. And Bev Anderson,
the number is going to disturb you. There are 445 credit unions with over $1 billion in assets.
Oh no, I'm very much aware of it. I used to,
and if we're talking 10% of the population, that would be 44. That wouldn't be 10, 11, or 12.
I know.
Yeah.
Again, we have a long way to go. We have a long way to go, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the ones that we have. What has happened is that we've had a few retire. We had 14 when Maurice Smith was our chair. There were $14 billion credit union
And he's
CEOs.
retired now, right?
He's retired. So Maurice is retired. Don Lewis from Aberdeen Proving Ground is retired. I'm almost certain, like Mark Robinette at Justice Federal Credit Union, they're probably $1 billion by now. And so I think there's a few more people that will be adding to that tight group. And I'm excited about that. I really am. Because as you know, we're so old, Robert, that we remember when Bill Porter was the very first African American to reach $1 billion credit union status.
Is Hope a $1 billion credit union yet?
I don't believe so.
Oh, gee, that's he's my all-star.
So Bill is a visionary like none other. But Bill Porter was at Municipal Credit Union in New York, and they were the first credit union to become $1 billion in assets with a Black president.
I understand where you're sitting, and you're saying it's great that we have this number, and it is great. But I'm sitting there saying, geez, we're talking like, I don't know, 4%, 2%. It's not 10%. It's whatever the heck it is.
It's not. I won't even do the percentage because I don't want to say it out loud.
So there is movement to go.
Yes.
And it's upsets me actually that the number is as small as it is, because there's some great people on that list.
Yeah.
And I can't believe they're the only great people of color in the credit union world.
And Viridian Credit Union might be at $1 billion assets. I'm hoping to find that out. Tanita Webb leads that credit union. She's a former board member of AACUC when she was at Seattle Metropolitan Federal Credit Union, and she's a phenomenal asset to the credit union system as well.
Is there a difference in personality between the Bill Porter, the MICU guy, and say Bert Hash Jr., who's now retired from the Maryland Credit Union, and today's CEOs?
So that's a really good question. So Bert J. Hash Jr. and Bill Porter, Michael Hale, Hubert Huisman, they had a different way of doing things, and they kind of probably had to do things differently for where they were and how they came up. But when I tell you Renaissance men who were very intentional about making sure that their membership was served, that their employees had good benefits. I admire all of them. I think that the $1 billion credit union men and women of today, I think that they have more to be concerned about with the regulations and social climates and trends in that nature. But I do think that what they all have in common is a desire to help their communities and their membership. And also, they're all very smart people. They tend to be people who are people like. They do enrollment really well. I believe that I would say one of the differences is that they don't have the same types of battles that they have to fight. When Bill walked into the room, he was probably the only Black man in that room. When Bert went to different things, he was probably the only Black man in that room. I don't think that they have that now. I think there was probably back when Bert was running MICU, there was probably maybe 5 Black $1 billion CEOs, maybe. I remember a very interesting fact. The first Black woman to run $1 billion shop was Marsha Majors, and she met Bert J. Hash at our booth at several years ago, and that's how we found out. Bert was talking with her, let her know that she was a retired CEO, and she let him know that she's currently a CEO, and so that's kind of how it happens. We see each other and we have conversations and figure out, oh, you're doing great things too. Well, let's hook up, and that's how AACC got started with that head nod. Like, I see you. Let's go have a conversation. Let's talk.
Technically, one thing that's different is that today's $1 billion credit union CEO. I could have run a credit union 20 years ago myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's running $1 billion credit union. You have to be able to oversee like 12 different lines of businesses, and they're totally different lines of businesses. It's not just deposits and loans.
Right.
It's all kinds of stuff is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be comfortable having all those balls in the air at the same time. So you got to get a different personality from the credit union Bert Hash Jr. ran was a different, simple. And I'm not saying his job was simple. Please don't misunderstand. Right. I've talked to him. I know the job he inherited. The man really did work wonders there. But it was technically a simpler job. Yeah, it's deposits, it's loans.
I would say so. It's a simpler job being 20 years ago being the executive director or the president of a 501c3. What we have to deal with now is amazing compared to what it was 20 years ago. And so I think that's what anything, right? Especially with technology opening up the way that it has, and then the compliance related issues, or compliance related things that come because of that, I think are challenging as well. What I do believe that the $1 billion CEO of today needs to have, and that's great team building skills that they can rally around, that their senior leadership will run through brick walls for them and be very top notch at those things, what you just said, all those different lines of businesses, that they have people who are experts in that, so that they're doing the best jobs they can with their team. So I think that is probably a common theme, is having a really good bench and people around you.
Yeah, I remember talking with one guy, a senior guy who works for Time News, who left a better paying job to work with him because he just was turned on by his passion and vision.
I've had a few people leave their good paying jobs and come work for AACC. It's something that's being said in the culture now, is you want to go where you're celebrated and not tolerated.
How are your credit unions faring right now? Are they running and hiding?
I don't think people are running and hiding. I think the people who are all about diversity, equity, and inclusion are doubling down. For instance, Bill Cheney. I have all these nice Bills in my life. Bill Cheney, he's also one of my heroes. And Bill and I did a podcast with Mike Lawson during GAC, and we talked about, Bill talked about, basically he's doubling down on DEI. He's not changing anything. And when I reached out to some of our larger investors and funders of AACC for guidance on what kind of stance they're taking on the DEI initiatives or the executive orders that are eradicating all of this, and they're saying we're doubling down. We're not going to change anything. We may change some wordings on some stuff, but it's all about being inclusive. It's all about making sure that people have financial equity. And I think what I love about our membership, Robert, is that they're leaning in and they're saying, we're with you. We're with you 100%. We have not seen, there's not been one credit union that has taken their membership and said, we're not paying. Not one.
Well, that's good. I see people who 3 months ago were pretty loud politically, have just gone into hiding. The boogeyman going to come track you down, beat you up at night? I don't know. If he's looking for me, he knows where to find me. So,
well, I'm not being overly gregarious, but I am optimistically cautious, because I don't want, not because of how I feel or how AACC stands, but it's more about our partnerships I don't want to cause any trouble for our partnerships. And so my team and we're trying to be extremely mindful of anybody who could could be adversely affected by any over the top comments that we make. So we're just going to, as Adrian Johnson says, stick to the facts. We're just going to stick to the facts and try to be the beacon of hope for people, a safe space to have conversations. We had a town hall led by Kevin Martin from Schools First and Shelton Rulak, which was phenomenal. Shelton used to be in the credit union industry. He worked at NASCUS. He also worked at CUNA when it was CUNA as director of advocacy. And so he's helping AACC a great deal with our advocacy efforts, making sure that our membership and our concerns, our members' concerns are heard on the Hill. And I think that's extremely important. That's something that AACC hasn't done. That's never been anything we've led with. We've participated in, but not led with. And I think now is a time for us to be very sensitive to what's going on and making sure that our voices are heard.
Does your organization have a position about NCUA? And I ask because what I hear in this situation is so volatile, and who knows, that the credit union tax exemption probably isn't going to go away, but NCUA might.
I think that it would be a disservice to credit unions if NCUA went away. I don't believe that the FDIC could regulate both because it's a whole different animal. We've had enough struggle with NCUA, especially for our small credit unions as it is. We certainly don't want to have to start all over again with educating regulators on how best to do the audits for our small credit unions. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I hope it doesn't go away.
Yeah, I as I said, this what you hear today about Washington D.C. is kind of like a firestorm and the wind's blowing, and you don't know which way the fire is going to go,
where that ember is going to take us.
Yeah. So, do you think NCUA has been friendly towards small Black credit unions?
I think that
I ask because I had one guy in this podcast who claimed that NCUA put his credit union out of business.
So I can't speak to that. I do know that Cliff Rosenthal has written a very explicit book on some things that have happened in the past of NCUA's past. I will say this, and not to protect NCUA, but both the past immediate chairman and the chairman before that, Rodney Hood and Todd Harper, have both received and have been inducted into the African American Credit Union Hall of Fame. And it's because of their leadership and their stance and how they led the NCUA, I think, to the best of their abilities to really help all people. But they certainly, in my opinion, supported small credit unions that were Black-led. Did some of those awful things happen? Absolutely, they have. But we've seen awful things happen to Black people and Black establishments throughout our history. This is nothing new. What needs to happen is the spotlight needs to go on it so those things can change. And so eradicating DEI is problematic because those changes, that's part of those changes. And so I think that the NCUA is doing the best that they can. They're led by people, and people have their own microaggressions and backgrounds. And I think that both administrations, through Rodney Hood and Chairman Harper, I believe that they listened when we brought things to their attention. And I think that they tried to actively change things that were brought to their attention. And I'm pleased about that. I think that AACC has enjoyed a really good relationship with the NCUA over the last two administrations.
And you go back, it was Lyndon Johnson who created the legislation that created the Great Society that legally ended things like segregation. It's And so that was a period of 64 to 66. And several presidents after Johnson were not particularly enthusiastic about that legislation.
Right.
But we did not, in my opinion, significantly regress despite some presidential opposition. And I look at that to take some kind of optimism that things may shake out in the end anyway.
Well, I think the things that are legislative that can't be changed will come forth. The U.S. Civil Rights Act of 1964, it still remains regarded by many as the catalyst of DEI. And so if we can still, if we can still hang on to those sanctions, we're going to be okay.
Well, I think it is the catalyst of DEI. And I think it's hard to reverse DEI without trying to reverse that Civil Rights Act. And I don't know quite how you could do that.
I'm hopeful that I'm hopeful that an executive order can't roll that one back.
Well, there are executive orders on everything. I don't know if they actually stick. Yeah, I mean, it's become a very puzzling time, Renee. More puzzling for you than for me because I'm not directly impacted by a lot of it. But,
Right.
So your members are sticking with you.
Yes.
You, of course, are always a super optimistic person. What are you going to do differently now?
That's a good question. So not much. Our conference title is Not Like Us. We're bold, mindful, and brave. And so that's a statement all in itself. And I think that we will continue to try to find I think what's most important, just like with the pandemic, just like with the civil unrest with George Floyd, I believe that AACUC needs to provide beacon of hope and a safe place for people to have the conversations that they need to have, talk about how they're feeling, talk about how can we move forward. I think that AACC does a really good job of letting people be themselves, their authentic selves, and also to talk about what we can do differently or what needs to be done, or just to have the conversation of, I'm not feeling good about this today. Can I talk to somebody about that? And I think that we give people spaces to do that. I'm going to do a shameless plug for an event on Friday. We're speaking to some great women in the industry. I'm excited about it. Bev Anderson, Lee Brady, Marsha Majors, and Tanita Webb will be speaking in partnership with Commitment to Change, but talking about great women and their stories. And I think that's the stuff that we continue to do. We highlight young people, we highlight women of color, we highlight women who are doing great things in the credit union industry. I think we don't detour from that. I think we try to find the products and services that are aligned with our communities now. And I think that the most important thing that we can ever do is to be kind to one another and to be hopeful for a better future. And that's what I'm sticking to. We're not going to change too much. We're going to still continue being the organization that is serving people passionately as best we can.
Now, why do we need your organization? Why can't this just be a subgroup of America's credit unions? This just gives you a lot of running room, Renee. Take the baton and run with it, please.
I think that America's Credit Unions is our lead trade organization for the industry, and the merger between NAFCU and CUNA has created a whole new entity that will service everybody in a way that is equitable and fair. AACUC is absolutely needed because AACUC has a different way of delivering products and services, delivering alternate ways of thinking. And I think in a democracy, you need to have other ways of thinking. We don't need to have an all group think. We are great partners with America's credit unions and are pleased with our partnership. I think that AACC exists because our members need a place where they see themselves. And so there's an
And they can
opportunity.
talk with other members about
Mhm.
problems that they may be having that they think perhaps are unique to them.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and you find out, well, I'm not the only person that's thinking this way.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Imagine going to a conference when you're a person of color and you go to an America's Credit Union conference. You're not the majority there. You are a minority there. But when you come to an AACUC conference, you see people of color, you see Black people, you see Hispanic people, you see Asian people, you see there's a different variety of what you see on our calls. You see people of different diverse backgrounds, and I think that that's why AACC is necessary. That's what we bring to the table. I was blessed by America's Credit Union to attend the Congressional Black swearing in. Oh my gosh, it was phenomenal. I'd never been to one, and I saw immediately how AACC needs to be hand in hand with this organization. And what they said about the CBC was that it is the soul of the American government. Well, I see that for AACC as being the soul and maybe a North Star for how credit unions were created and how we need to maintain ourselves.
and that organization must have changed a lot too, because historically that was composed of people who were, in many cases, literally associates of Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
And now those people are retired or in many cases deceased.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a whole new generation of Black leaders in Washington.
Yes.
Probably more females than there were before too.
No doubt about it. Yes, a lot more females are there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Huh. That would be cool to interact with those people.
Well, we're trying to do some good work with that, and America's Credit Unions was the one to bring us back in the fold with this organization. And so, I think I do think that Jim and his team are doing some good work in trying to really make sure that the needs of all of our members are taken care of, and I'm pleased with that.
Have you interacted at all with DCUC, Defense Credit Union?
Absolutely. Tony
excellent.
Hernandez. Tony Hernandez and I are great friends.
I was going to tell you, a guy you got to talk to is Tony Hernandez.
No, Tony. No. Tony actually through Dan McHugh and Tony Hernandez, we created the cross-cultural exchange program that we're still doing today.
Cool.
And Anthony, Tony was a great catalyst for that. Tony and I, we're in constant communication. He is one of my heroes and someone who we often agree to disagree, but there's I think that his stands and some of the things that he's working on, I think that they're absolutely critical. My father was in the Navy, so I'm so grateful for the credit unions who serve the military, and I think he's got a good gig over there. I'm really impressed and proud of what he's doing.
Well, he's turned that into a brawling association. I mean, he's a very active lobbyist. They're pounding on doors, making sure they're heard. It's quite impressive.
Before we go, think hard about how you can help support this podcast so we can do more interviews with more thoughtful leaders in the credit union world. What we're trying to figure out here in these podcasts is what's next for credit unions. What can they do to really, really, really make a difference in the financial scene? Can't all be mega banks, can it? It's my hope it won't all be mega banks. It'll always be a place for credit unions. That's what we're discussing here. So figure out how you can help. Get in touch with me. This is rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Robert McGarvey again. That's rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Get in touch. We'll figure out a way that you can help. We need your support. We want your support. We thank you for your support. The CU 2.0 podcast.